So thank you for being here. I'll be presenting my doctoral thesis, Fitness Applications for Healthy Older Adults Using Large Projection Displays, Methodology, Design, Assessment, and its field validation. I'll start by giving you a short introduction to the topic, then the technology that was developed, the applications, in this case Exergames, that we developed, and then their validation, ending with concluding with the main findings and contributions of this work. As you probably know, developed countries are undergoing a demographic shift towards more aged populations. In Portugal alone, in 2018, more than 28% of the population was already over 60 years old, and is estimated that in the next 40 years, 1/3 of the European citizens will be over 65. At the same time, sedentary habits are identified for their negative impact on health, life expectancy, and quality of life. Still, they are prevalent, with around 30% of the world population not meeting the minimum recommended levels of physical intensity. And preventing this sedentarism is especially important in older adults, as they are the group that are disproportionately sedentary. It's estimated that in the elderly, 65 to 80% of their awake time is spent sitting. And is also in this age group that physical activity has the most extensive benefits or potential for benefits. So the combination of aging and sedentarism is of high concern and puts a high strain on societies and their health systems. Nevertheless, there are some recommendations on how to be active in this age group. The recommendations are to engage in multidimensional training in moderate to vigorous intensities of physical activity, around 150 minutes per week of this intensity exercise. And Exergames, or exercise video games, are a fun activity that requires exercise for in-game success, and so are a candidate to tackle sedentarism in older adults, as it's a persuasive approach to exercise. While there is a lot of research in this area, we identify some research gaps. First, most research is done in laboratory environments, and it could fail then to pass on to the real setting, to the field. There's also, when dealing with elderly, a focus on games to tackle balance, and they mostly ignore the other domains. And there's also a tendency to use commercial available games, which are not really designed for this population. So given the negative impact of sedentary behaviors in the elderly population, together with the clear potential for benefits in exercising through gaming, we set the goal of designing a set of custom Exergames capable of generating fitness benefits in the elderly. This involved first developing a technology for interaction, developing the games themselves, and then validate the games that they would do what we proposed that they would. So I'll first give you a brief presentation on the technology developed. This is going to be just one slide with a video. So we developed the Cave software, which is a plugin for the Unity 3D game engine. It provides full body interaction through the use of a Kinect, a depth camera, and also manages the projection in multiple screens. So this video is relevant because in the document that I delivered is just pictures and text explaining, but here you can see what the software does. It adapts the projections on the walls to the position of the user's head so that you see as you would see if you were inside the virtual environment. Also, by tracking the whole body, your body is present inside the virtual world. That means that you can interact with your whole body with the virtual elements, as I will show right now in this video. For example, just kicking some rocks. This is just an example. And while this system is able to do all this in this elaborate setup, which is a form of a cave, 3 walls and a floor, in the rest of the thesis, I will show the uses in a much more simple, which is just a floor projection and actually with a static viewpoint. So moving on, given this tool that we developed, then comes the process of developing the appropriate content with it. And there was the need to establish what would be the best way to interact. So we have a system that tracks the whole body, but that's not the interaction itself. So for interaction, maybe the best candidate would be natural user interfaces, because they, in these systems, users act and feel like naturals right from the start. You just use your body in the best way that you see fit. And why is this good for older adults? Because there's a known relationship between the intention to adopt technology by older adults and their perceived ease of use of a system. And in these natural user interfaces, there's not much to learn. You just get in front of the system, it recognizes your gestures, and you are able to interact. So there's lots of research. I'm here just showing some examples in this area of natural user interfaces, such as using your body to navigate in a map by mimicking a bird flying, or just leaning the torso towards where you want to move, or pointing at the screen and use the hand poses to actuate, or just stepping on floors. And that's actually, our setup was actually floor projections that we wanted users to interact with the virtual elements projected on the floor. And we wanted to evaluate between two methods, what would be the best. So stepping on the virtual elements or pointing at them with your arm. So we developed these two techniques to act on the world. We wanted to test it into two abstract tasks, a point and click and a drag and drop. On the top, you have the example of the point and click, where you just have to select the green rectangle among the blue. In the drag and drop, you have to drag the yellow rectangle into the green rectangle. Okay, here I'm showing you the one task being interacted with the feet. So you just, the cursor basically follows your feet. And here with the arm, we just raycast the forearm into the screen, and the cursor is where you're pointing at. In this experiment, we wanted to measure the usability of both systems, the workload felt by the participants, and also the objective performance. And very important, we wanted to test with elderly populations. So we gathered a group of 19 elderly, average age 70 years old. They did a study, and the results were quite consistent across both tasks. What we found was that there was higher usability and lower workload when stepping or using, the stepping or feet interaction method compared to the pointing or using the arm. That's what we see here on these graphs. So there was this clear preference for stepping, and this insight served as a seed to the development of the games themselves, the floor projected games, which I'll go over now. So there was this first phase in the design of the games, which was the conceptualization and ideation of the games. Together with the previous insight that I just showed you, also a sports scientist provided a list of appropriate exercises for older adults to train and the target domains, muscular strength, aerobic endurance, and balance. There was also the decision on which theme would unify the games. We decided on the theme of a national tour, as this resonates with older adults. The ones that we are in contact, they really like to go on trips to visit cities in Portugal that have culture or historical significance. And also the technology. So the technology was developed, as I showed before, kind of in parallel with this, and also the previous study. Here in the picture, you see how the system is actually deployed. It's just a projector projecting on the floor with a Kinect under it, so we can map the movement into the projection. This information was given to a group of game designers, developers, and graphical designers that we divided in 3 teams, and we gave these decisions as input, and they had 1 week to in a development jam to develop prototypes, 3 prototypes of games, which are the games here presented A, B, and C. Together, also in parallel, game D was developed by 2 bachelor students during a whole semester. And this is the core of the games. Each game represents a region of Portugal. For example, A is the pisa da uva, where you have to get grape bunches into this lagar, the wine press, and you thread on the grapes with your feet to extract the juice. B is in the Douro River. So first, these are prototypes. These have evolved. You have to row the boats. So this one is aimed for upper body strength. And then C, the idea was to be related to fado. So in the bottom, you see a guitar neck, and you would press on the guitar neck to play the music. And D is related to the city of Funchal. We have the toboggan, or the carros de cesto, wicker couches that go downhill. And yeah, those were the games. Those games were then play tested with 9 older adults. We interviewed them. We wanted to understand what they liked the most, what they didn't like. We also wanted to know the routines of these people in the gym, their socialization structures, the relationship with colleagues, instructors, what were their main motivators to exercise in the gym, obstacles, and facilitators to integrate these Exergames into the routine of the gym. And with what we collected, we then iterated the games and refined them. And I will show you now the final version of the games, in which we also added a more abstract game, Exerpong. And there's a video now. So Exerpong is a game that focus on cardiorespiratory fitness. It's very simple. You just have to move to the sides. It's a remake of the classic Pong. Then we have grape stomping, like I told you before. It's about threading on grapes with your feet. So the feet are mapped into the game. So you actually interact with your feet with the virtual grapes. Then rabelos, where you have to row the boat in the city of Porto, ideally, and put some barrels inside the boat. Then Exer music that evolved a lot. We actually had to change from the guitar to a piano to be more perceived what was happening. And toboggan, in which the participants have to lean forward and backwards to accelerate and break the toboggan. All right, so this is the set of games that we developed, and now that we have this set of purposely designed Exergames, we then advance to their validation. From the basis that we know that conventional physical training leads to multiple benefits in older adults. So we wanted to ask 2 questions. What would be the effects of adding Exergames to the training? And would exercising with Exergames be as effective as exercising normally as they do in the gym, elderly gym? So for this, we set up a randomized controlled trial, 3-month long, so a longitudinal study with 2 conditions. Control condition, they would engage 2 times per week in normal or conventional exercise sessions in the gym, group sessions. And in the Exergames condition, this group, one of the sessions, they also exercised 2 times per week. One of the sessions was just like control. The second was Exergaming, individual sessions of Exergaming. So it's more a combined training. We were interested in measuring the 3 main metrics. The first 3 we measured at 3 different points in time. So this was before the intervention started, at the end of the intervention, and 1 month after the intervention has finished. The metrics measured in these points were the fitness, which actually expands to 6 more domains. So senior fitness test is a battery of tests. In this case, we use 6 tests, each focus on 1 domain of fitness. We also evaluated balance. And with a survey, we evaluated the health-related quality of life. This one actually divides into components, mental health and physical health. The last 2 metrics were actually measured in a session per session based with accelerometers. So we could measure how many minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity of physical activity they were engaged during the session, and also the energy expenditure with the MET. So in this study, we approached 233 potential participants, of which 37 actually enrolled in the study, and from which 31 completed the whole study. Average age over 67 years old. Moving on to the results. So first, for fitness, measures through the senior fitness test battery of tests. What we measure or what we identify was a clear or a significant improvement in lower body strength and upper body strength in the Exergames condition. So in the combination of both types of exercise. We also measured a significant improvement in balance from start to finish, but in both conditions, both Exergames and also control, and an improvement in quality of life related to mental health, but only in the Exergames condition. Well, for the metrics on a session-to-session base, we measured interestingly that control sessions or conventional sessions actually elicited more energy expenditure than playing the games. However, the participants spent less time in the recommended physical activity intensity. So what we can infer from this is that actually the conventional sessions elicited higher peaks of energy expenditure at higher power, but in short bursts. If you add them all together, you have bigger energy expenditure, but less time in the recommended levels. And actually what's recommended is minutes of this intensity, not energy expenditure. And Exergames had more minutes. And so people during the games, they were working out in a more constant but lower power output. So to conclude, the conclusions of this study is that with the Exergames succeeded in providing benefits in strength, balance, and mental well-being. They were actually more efficient in providing more minutes per session, or more minutes of the recommended intensity of exercise per session, also with a lower energy expenditure. And that the combination of games and traditional exercise was shown actually to be the best condition. Also, the fact that this study was performed at an elderly gym with minimal intervention from the researchers shows that this system could be used in a real scenario, achieving similar results. Moving on to the conclusions of this presentation and main findings and contributions. With this work, what we provide first is a technological contribution in form of the broad open source virtual reality software which features full body tracking, which is the CAVE. Also, we provide insights into the development of interaction methods for floor projections and Exergames for the elderly, together with an already developed set of custom Exergames for the Portuguese older population. Also, we provide a study that provides evidence that integrating personalized multidimensional fitness training Exergames into traditional settings can effectively enhance older adult motor performance and mental well-being. And that this technology is actually a viable low-cost option to be deployed in the context of elderly fitness programs. It's worth noting that the work, not presented here, but delivered in the document, is the result of 7 publications in which 111 participants took part, and that these games are actually already deployed at elderly homes and being used successfully to exercise with older adults. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge and thank the volunteers, the elderly volunteers of Ginásio de Santo António for participating in this study, also the staff for facilitating the studies, and all the co-authors. So thank you, that's it, and I'll be now open to the questions and comments. Okay.